Hello everyone, welcome back to Frames of Nature, a channel about nature, photography, and more. Sundarbans, a place that elicits a variety of emotions in people who have heard many stories about the place and haven't yet had a chance to visit. Stories that evoke fear, mystery, shock, surprise, amazement, and magnificence, among others. Sundarbans ecosystem is one of the largest contiguous tract of mangrove forest in the world, spanning over 10,000 square kilometers across India and Bangladesh. The place extends from the Hooghly River in West Bengal, India, all the way to the Baleshwar River in Bangladesh. Having withstood the test of time, the natural wonder that is Sundarbans is a legend in itself and is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Exploring Sundarbans is an experience that is hard to put down in words. Waterways are the roadways in Sundarbans and boats are the mode of travel. While ambling along the backwaters in a boat, one can hardly ignore that strange lingering feeling which seems to remind us of the fact that these forests probably hold much more than they actually show. The thick and the dense growth give very little chances of sighting much of the wildlife there. However, the less one sees, the more enhanced the feeling that something is watching us from behind those thickets. Mangroves grow in one of the toughest of environments. The high salinity of the water around and the constant tidal changes have forced the trees that grow there to evolve some amazing adaptations in order to survive. The highly saline water is very low in oxygen, so in order to ensure aeration, be able to breathe, the trees have developed upward-facing roots known as the pneumatophores, which extend out of the mud and the water surface, thus helping in gathering the much-needed oxygen. Life in Sundarbans is dictated by the tides. All life that is a part of this ecosystem seems to have understood that these tidal changes very well have adapted their lifestyle to be in tune with them. As the high tide comes in, the entire forest seems to fall silent. Nothing much moves and no sound is to be heard other than the splashing of the waves onto the inundated mud banks. The branches and leaves of the trees seem to be floating on the surface of water. After a period of 6 hours, when it is time for the low tide, the water starts receding, the mud flats get exposed, and the whole place comes alive. Fiddler crabs, mud skippers, colorful birds come out and get busy looking for a quick meal. Big reptiles like the monitor lizards and the saltwater crocodiles climb up the mud banks to bask. Few of the mammals like the spotted deer, wild boars, and macaques can also be seen grazing and foraging on the swampy forest floor that gets exposed. The legend, the mystic, the tiger is the true master of Sundarbans. It fears no one and wanders its dominion with elan. Tigers of Sundarbans, right from their birth, lead a very tough life in the very demanding, highly saline ecosystem. Constantly on the move across the swampy islets surrounded by vast spans of water channels, these animals have developed certain characteristics which are very unique to the tigers of Sundarbans. The people who live off the forest and the sea around it have a very complicated relationship with the tiger. They fear it, they loathe it, and at the same time adore it. Tiger is highly venerated and is considered the safeguarder of the forest and its denizens. It was November and a lovely winter morning in Sundarbans when I began my tour to the place. As I embarked on my 5-day journey, I did not even have the slightest inkling of the things that were in store for me, the experiences that were waiting to be unwrapped. The day began with good sightings of some lovely winged friends. Birding is always good during winter, with many migratory individuals coming down to Sundarbans to spend the winter. Added to the beautiful birds were a few of the usual suspects like the monitor lizards, crocodiles, mud skippers, and crabs. A whole day went by without as much as a whiff of a tiger. We did come across what looked like fresh pug marks on the muddy patches. However, sighting a tiger still remained a yearning dream. The next day was fresh and bright. Up early in the morning, refreshed with a cup of tea and some biscuits to go with it, I was sailing away with my group into the wilderness. The jungle seemed eerily silent but for a few chirpings of birds. A couple of hours passed and it was time for breakfast. Folks were hungry and we were setting up our plates when someone on the boat One of the crew members, if my memory serves me right, shouted out saying, "Bag, bag," the local lingo for tiger. It was like I was broken out of a reverie. The majestic animal was standing at the forest's edge, facing the water. The morning light had just begun to show through and the forest was glowing golden. What a magical sight it was! It was a male. It seemed as if the king was assessing the tide to cross the channel. After a few breathtaking moments, he made up his mind and got into the water. Swimming across the deep channel with very powerful undercurrents takes a lot of strength, and the master was adept at it. He was gliding across like a fish. Reaching the opposite bank, he climbed onto the mudflat, gave a cursory look towards us, and headed on into the jungle. This episode might have lasted for 3 to 5 minutes at the most. We on the boat were so excited, to say the least. A dream sighting it was indeed. The next couple of hours went in discussing and reliving the amazing sighting. We were so content with the sighting that we forgot all about breakfast, and by the time we finished the discussions, it was midday and time for lunch. We got our plates full and were happily gorging when our always alert naturalist Samar Dada gave a shout, the same one as before, "Bhag, bhag, bhag!" I was stunned, to say the least. I felt as if my ears were betraying me. But when he called us out again, I was convinced. He pointed out as a dense patch of forest and said that the tiger was sitting there. It indeed was. The tiger was taking a breather, resting on the wet, muddy forest floor under the shade of a thick canopy. This was the same male we had encountered a few hours back. What a miss it would have been had our Samar Dada not spotted it. The tiger was sitting so regally, befitting a true king, a true leader. After a good rest, he got up and decided to move on. This time, though, to our sheer luck, he didn't disappear into the thickets. Instead, he decided to walk along the forest's edge. We followed him slowly, soaking in every single moment of this unbelievable sighting. He walked with such elan, maneuvering himself through the terrain that was strewn with sharp and poking breathing roots of the mangrove trees. Walking along, he entered the forest and emerged out into a wide open mudflat. That was when I could truly enjoy the magnificence of the beast. His feet sinking into the mud with each step, he came down the slope and got into the small channel of water. Gliding across the channel, he climbed up onto the mudflat on the other side with a quick glance at us. He then broke out the water off his beautiful coat and disappeared into the dense forest, not before glancing at the eager audience for one final time. The audience who had traveled all the way there with just a hope of getting a glimpse of the amazing animal. The entire second episode lasted for close to 4 hours, unbelievable to say the least. Moments like these are very hard to come by in the natural world. People who have visited Sundarbans would vouch for the fact that getting a sighting like this is extremely difficult. That was a day when nature decided to shower us with all her love. Also, the Lord, the King himself, decided to grace us with his presence and indeed put up a show. The luck didn't end there. Few more jaw-dropping moments occurred the next day too, which I am not at liberty to talk about, unfortunately. I am definitely proud to say that the moments I was witness to along with my group and the crew, the elite few as I would like to call ourselves, are extremely rare to come by. No one will ever be able to better this or even match this for a long, long time to come. I am closing out this video with a poem that I wrote. One beautiful Sundarbans morning, we were all sailing along with a lot of yearning. The white curtain of fog started lifting, revealing the wonderful landscape behind. Golden rays of the sun began dressing up the mystical mangroves, while denizens of the forest were getting on with their morning chores. Our hearts were aching and minds racing in intense anticipation throes. We were all wondering as to what was in store. Out came the king to grace us with his presence. He stood there smelling the air and assessing the tide. Convinced, he slid into the water with an effortless stride, swimming along ever so gracefully and stepping into land, weaving his charm like a magic wand. Soaking the earth with the water dripping from his beautiful coat, enchanting us all on our little boat. He passed a cursory glance at his subjects before disappearing into the thickets. Time seems to stand still, holding its breath, those glorious moments I will carry unto my very last breath. As always, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and share. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.